Now, I do want to say, I don't want this to be a big doom and gloom episode. I do think that this is going to be a serious issue, and I'm trying not to hide that. I am concerned about our housing market and, of course, about the overall economy. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But I do want to say that, in the past 6 days, or at least at the day that I record this show, which I'm pre-recording this Friday, March 20th, over the past 6 days, we've had 6 deals get done, a deal a day. So there are still people out there that are looking at real estate. There are still homes that are priced attractively, that are worth buying. Interest rates in the grand scheme of things are still low. Yeah, they weren't as low as they were last week, but who knows when they're going to get back to that point. A lot of people refinanced when interest rates were basically at around 3%. I was one of them, locked in at the lowest possible rate and best possible time, thanks to a relationship with one of my lender partners on my real estate team. So that's why having a great real estate team is so important, not just your realtor, but the people that they align themselves with to help create this fantastic world-class experience for you. And so I do want to say that, again, there's plenty of activity out there. I think this is almost, I was explaining this to another agent on my team. It's almost like we're selling real estate in December. There's a lot less people out there because there are people distracted with other things. In this instance, of course, it's staying home and being safe rather than going out and getting their last minute Christmas shopping done, or just spending time with family. So we have less quantity right now, but we have better quality. The people that are looking at real estate and are subjecting themselves to those types of concerns, they're not doing that freely. We're not really getting tire kickers right now. And we just sold a home in 15 days this week that was previously on the market for almost 200 days with a different real estate agent, and we sold it for more money than their previous asking price. So there's still good news out there. It's maybe going to be a little bit harder to find with the media's ability to grab your attention and focus on the negative rather than the positive. But there's still some good stuff going on. But in the short term, let's kind of look at the local impact here. At least as of right now, county offices like the Register of Deeds are closed in the Tri-County area, which means closing attorneys are only able to perform title searches going back to the early 1990s. So if there's an estate or if there's a lawsuit in that chain of title, when they're researching it, as an example, that might be a problem. In areas like Berkeley County, they record each closing electronically. But Charleston County, as an example, does not. So that means that now lenders are going to have to be okay with essentially closing on a property and having the closing attorney hold recordable documents in a trust until a solution is made or reached. So we've got some of those things that we're dealing with right now. We've also got the fact that, lenders and appraisers and inspectors and contractors and closing attorneys, they're all backed up and they're all running on skeleton crews. So they're just incredibly busy, which means it's going to take longer to get a deal done right now if a deal is even still possible. And as of right now, it is. But, if we look at some of the other impacts to our market, at least locally here in Charleston, think about, our food and bev industry. Think about tourism, hotels, everybody that's self-employed or that has a small business with limited staff. Look at all the layoffs and the pay cuts that we've already seen as a result of this. And I think part of that is also because, hey, things have been great for years and years and years. And, especially real estate agents, they start throwing money at these different types of solutions or these different types of sources of business. And, there are very few agents in the world that actually look at a profit and loss and make financial based decisions. They're just like, oh, wait, you're telling me that all I have to pay is, $2,000 a month and I can get 25 names of people that want to buy or sell a home? Fantastic. Sign me up. And then they just don't go anywhere. The agent can't convert the leads or whatever. Try not to get too far down that rabbit hole. But the point is that I think people have gotten a little fat and happy. It's whenever there is a shift in a market, businesses need to quote unquote trim some fat, get lean and mean, and survive. And I'm here to tell you that as somebody that grew a business when the market crashed. Where there is chaos, there is also opportunity. And so I run to the opportunity because I know how to navigate the market for the benefit of, my clients. And then of course the agents on my team and myself and my family, because we don't, things get really hard financially when we don't sell houses. And I'm not here to push you into buying or selling a home or of course use scare tactics or pretend that everything's okay and that it's business as usual. But, in the grand scheme of things, I do think that, people have gotten just a little too comfortable with everything being awesome. I do think we're going to start to see a little bit of an increase in short sales and foreclosures. There was already a backlog of foreclosures, and now they're coming to the market. Prices are going to flatline in the short term. I just don't think that we're not in an environment right now to overprice your listing. This is not necessarily my, there are times, there are neighborhoods, there are areas where I can get away with overpricing a property and sell it for more money than the person that just sold down the street. There are instances in which that can happen, and those might still exist, but I don't think there's enough momentum at the moment for us to confidently overprice a listing and still get the offer. But we also have to look at other markets because they're seeing a pretty massive impact. I mean, I have on good authority that the real estate market in Atlanta, as an example, has practically shut down. Showings have stopped. And we have a lot of people that move here from Atlanta and Charlotte and Virginia and Ohio and so on and so forth. And if they can't sell their home there, they can't buy your home here. Other areas of the country, like resort-based communities, as an example. I may have told you this, but I am part of a real estate coaching community that coaches real estate agents around the country. I coach a gentleman that sells real estate at a high volume, but in a resort market in Utah, and his sales, it's dropped 85% in the past week and a half. That's a big number. A lot of these areas, these resort-based communities have kind of hit a brick wall, and sales have practically disappeared. With people even voluntarily walking away from their earnest money because of the fear of getting locked into a bad deal. And, I think we look at the grand scheme of things, we're looking at jobless claims probably hitting or exceeding somewhere around 2 million cases next week. Mostly due to job losses in restaurants, bars, hotels, airlines, small businesses, so on and so forth. But here's the big one: is the Fed cutting the interest rate to 0%. And first of all, this does not mean that interest rates for mortgages are now 0%. I put a post on Facebook telling agents to stop telling people that interest rates are now 0% and that now is the perfect time to buy a house. I had a bunch of comments on that post, but it reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, which is, education is expensive, but ignorance is expensiver. People that rely on real estate agents for information and guidance and counsel and their wisdom on an incredibly expensive purchase or sale so that they can keep more of their money. It's one of the reasons why people have such a challenge with trusting real estate agents. We don't always do the greatest job of protecting, our name and what we do for a living. Sometimes what people think about real estate agents is true because we deserve it. And that's the whole point of this show, is to help you better understand what is fact from fiction, help you better understand the dynamics of the real estate market, and prepare for a purchase or sale or an investment in real estate with the right information, with the right opinions of the market and where it's headed, so that you guys can win in your transaction, so that you guys have the confidence that what you're doing is the right thing. The questions that you're asking are the right questions because they're important, so on and so forth. So, this whole Fed cutting the interest rate to nearly 0%, the reality is this, is that when the Fed cuts rates, it refers to their decision to reduce the federal funds target rate. The target rate is it's a guideline for the actual rate that banks charge each other on overnight reserve loans. So rates on interbank loans are negotiated by the individual banks, and they usually stay pretty close to the target rate, which is also referred to as the federal funds rate. And so the federal funds rate is important because many other rates, domestic and international, are linked to it, and they move closely with it. So the federal funds rate, I just want you guys to better understand this. It is a monetary policy tool used to achieve the Fed's goals of price stability, low inflation, and sustainable economic growth. And so changing the federal funds rate influences money supply, beginning with banks and eventually kind of trickling down to us, the consumers. And so the Fed lowers interest rates in order to stimulate economic growth. It can encourage borrowing and investing, but when rates are too low, it can also spur excessive growth and then inflation. And inflation, of course, eats away at purchasing power. So on the other hand, when there's too much growth, the Fed will raise interest rates, right? So it's a delicate dance. And yes, it is going to have an impact on, credit cards and your money market accounts and things along those lines. And I'm not here to talk, about those things. But the reality is that just because the Fed cut the interest rate to zero does not mean that mortgage rates have now secretly gone down to zero or surprisingly gone down to zero. That's just not how it works. And in fact, I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, I'm going to have Derek Ouellette with Fairway Independent Mortgage come on and tell you his side of the story, what he's experiencing as somebody that, of course, is incredibly busy right now, but of course, taking on new clients because of the low interest rates we had last week, because of the changes that are happening in the market right now. And it'll be an interesting discussion. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And remember, if you want to talk to me more about these impacts and how it influences you and your home or your decision to buy something, then please give me a call. Let's talk through it. 843-400-8009. 843-400-8009 is my personal number, or go to listingsincharleston.com. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Broadcast Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday mornings at 10 on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.